guys, it's Emma here. So today I'm just gonna be a bit more of a serious video, you could say. I generally try and do positive and like cruising happy videos, but today I just wanted to talk about something that involves like the boating community and like a little incident that happened. But let's go. So if you saw it in one of my last videos, then you would have known that we had the symptoms of the virus. So we did the normal quarantine and took a bit of extra. And then we moved to this spot that we are right now because we needed water and access to shops. So down there is the water point and bins, and then if we go down here, there is a little garage with also a bus stop that leads either into Nantwich or Chester, which is also really handy for us. So this was a great little mooring spot, and it's also really quiet here, so not that many people like ever walk along the towpath, which is really great, especially for our dogs. And also the towpath is reasonably wide, like you could definitely fit 2 people walking across here. So when we came to this mooring, we saw that it had arm coats, which I'll explain in a minute, but there was a boat down here, and the arm coat kind of ends around where that boat is and goes all the way up, kind of past some houses. We always try and avoid not mooring like like in front of houses, because you know it is somebody's home, and we don't want to feel like we're intruded, and also our dogs are kind of noisy. So we made sure to leave a bit of a gap between us and the boat. So also if a boat came past, they could also moor here. We just put a safe distance between both of us. This was also the distance that we had when we first came here, because obviously we did just come out of lockdown. So if you don't know what this is arm coat, and that over there is called a diaper or nappy pin, whatever you want to call it. And you put the diaper pin into the arm coat, and then you hook your rope onto the diaper pin, and it's a really great way of mooring. We really love the arm coat because it's so much easier than normal moorings, like fluffy moorings I call them, when they don't have any arm coat and you have to pin in. There's a lot of bad things about pinning in, like either the ground can be too soft or hard, and then also boats can get pulled out sometimes with the pins. So the pins aren't always great, so when we see arm coat we always try and moor. As I said in the last clip, the arm coat goes all the way down to the boat down there, and the arm coat goes all the way up there. And obviously we don't want to moor in front of people's houses because we don't want to intrude on them or anything like that, so we always try like we moored here, giving more space between us and the boat. Also because all the houses have really big gardens, and obviously the boat down there doesn't. And there's only one little gap. There's like, to get to the petrol station, there's only one little gap to get to the road. Otherwise you have to either climb a really steep hill. So if we had to move from this spot, then we would have to go all the way to Barbridge, and obviously further away from water. So we wanted to try and not move from here and just stay as long as possible, just while we obviously get completely better, and we get food and water. And obviously this is within the rules of what the CRT put in place. So while we were here, we noticed that every day a group of dogs would come past our boat, and obviously we don't have a problem with that. This is a public towpath, people can walk past our boat. Dogs on the towpath jumped up at our windows, and obviously it was getting a little annoying because it kept happening and our dogs would just go insane. So after the second or third time it happened, my mum was in the kitchen, and the dogs did it again, but this time the small child with the obviously the owner of the dogs. Now again we wouldn't have a problem with this, but then the child came right next to the boat and looked through the window. And obviously we didn't really want the child right next to the boat, not because we didn't want it, but just because obviously with the whole coronavirus thing, we could have, for all they could have known, we could have still been infected, and obviously we just didn't want to give it to the child. So my mom asked the guy to keep his dogs and the child away from the boat, just because we didn't want to risk the child safe. We wanted to make sure the child was safe. When my mom came out, she obviously told them everything about keeping the child and the dogs away, and the guy didn't take it very well. He thought my mom was being rude, and that this was his, he owned this, because his house is literally just there behind our boat, and obviously he doesn't. This is CRT property, and I get people don't want, house people don't really want boats mooring in front of the house, and we weren't moored in front of his house. We're on the outskirts of it, and we're obviously not stopping him going past our boat. This is a public towpath. You can walk past, but we want to, obviously with the whole coronavirus thing, we want social distancing, and we just want to make sure the child is safe, and we don't want any people to get infected. So obviously he took it very badly and was quite aggressive. He walked off, he kept going on his walk, and when he came back, his dogs did it again. They jumped up at the window, and obviously we kind of had enough with it. It was like ridiculous. It wasn't that hard just to keep your dogs away from our boat or put them on leash. He also said we should move from our mooring, which obviously we cannot do, because we obviously need water, we need food, and obviously with the CRT we're not really supposed to move unless it's absolutely necessary. And this is actually a quiet towpath, so it'd be silly to move from it, because then the next stop we'd have to stop maybe is Nantwich or somewhere like that. So after that incident happened, my mom filled out an online report and reported it to the police and CRT, just in case anything else happened, and that it was just on there just in case it happened again or just something like that. So far we've been kind of lucky, and I think when he has gone on a walk, he's gone the other way, and we don't want to make it out like he couldn't walk past our boat. He's obviously freely just allowed to walk past it, but obviously just letting your child poke your head through our boat obviously isn't that great. This is our home as well. If somebody went up to his house and did the same with his windows, obviously he would obviously hate it and tell them to go away and stuff. We did it politely, because our boat is our house, is our home, and we just don't want dogs or children getting too close to it and possibly hurting themselves. Yeah, so obviously this mooring luckily it's really quiet and barely anybody walks past, but we have been at moorings that people have been walking past every 20 to 40 seconds, and a lot of boaters have been dealing with this. So there's obviously a lot of older boaters and anxious boaters that obviously probably don't have the best health, and quite anxious about the situation. It's obviously quite weird because when we went into town, the big town's Chester, we went we had to social distance on the bus, and then when we got into town we obviously had to keep our distance between people, and when we went to go in the shop we had to wait in a line, but the moment we came back to our home, the social distancing apparently just doesn't apply to the people walking across the towpath, which I feel is just not very good, because there's obviously there's old people on the canal. So ever since the lockdown and quarantine has happened, the Canal River Trust did a survey of how of the towpaths and how busy they've gotten, and apparently in some areas they've increased by 200%, which is obviously a lot, especially since everybody said stay inside, try and stay away from people, and I don't think people sometimes understand that boats are our homes as well. It's not just houses that are actual homes. People live in vans, they live in caravans, they live in boats, and I think people don't really respect that too much. So the towpaths aren't actually public paths, they're permissible paths, so that's where they've given the CRT or whoever's owned the towpath has given the public permission to walk along their towpaths, and obviously we pay our license £850 license, and it's about £800 a year, and we actually pay to be here, and being able to go on the towpaths, and then these people can they think they can come along and think that the towpath, even if it's outside their house, they get to own it, which is completely wrong. If you went into the legal stuff of it, you could obviously see that that does not belong to the houses. The towpath does not belong to the houses, it belongs to the CRT. And obviously the CRT, they've heard of this issue and they have tried to put up signs about it. I'm please keep away from moored boats as much as possible, but it hasn't really worked. People have kind of still ignored them and just gone on with walking past other people's boats. The CRT they can close the towpaths off for the public, because in 2001 there was this disease going around called foot and mouth, and it was affecting cows specifically, and the CRT closed their towpaths while it was happening. Critical of the CRT, but they did close the towpaths for the foot and mouth disease, but they haven't for the coronavirus, which I feel like isn't the best, because the people, like old people that live on boats, are more at risk with this. So we just feel like people that have come out of like their houses from the towns and cities and come to the towpath and just relax more, but while they're walking past, all like the elderly people on the boats are worrying about getting this disease. So just be cautious of like when you're walking around, and you're walking past a boat, try and keep your distance from the boat. I get if it's a thin towpath, it's a bit harder, but like towpaths like that are reasonably wide, like this one here that I showed you earlier, those ones are really not hard, just to social distance and just walk on the other side of, and don't stop outside of boats. We've had, like, before this whole coronavirus thing, people have stopped outside and looked at certain things on our boats, and we haven't really cared that much, you know, it's not that big of a deal. But obviously now that the coronavirus thing is being a bit more, it's just you want to be more careful. We obviously don't really want that too much around. So I'm sorry this video wasn't very positive or anything like that, but all fine and everything. Hopefully this won't happen again, and if it does, we'll have to call the police again. But hopefully it doesn't, and we can stay here for the rest of the week or something, and then we can hopefully move on and get back to cruising videos. So to cheer you all guys up, I have a few bits of footage of us coming here, of like my mom filming us inside the lock, and a funny story about a swan, but let's go. So where I am moored, there is actually this little like young swan, and my mom was walking up to the services, and she had to call me to come and rescue her, because the swan is like on the towpath, and my mom is a huge wimp and wouldn't go past the swan because it was just looking at her funny. So I had to go and rescue her and like distract the swan a little bit while she walked past. But yeah, this one's really cute, but also is a bit terrifying. So I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I do a video, and comment on my social medias, my Patreon, and my Gmail, thenarrowboatgirl@gmail.com, if you have any suggestions for me. And I also do have a canal post address if you would like to send me letters. But yeah, see you later. Bye!